What's up, YouTube fans? So what I wanted to talk about in this video, right? I was just thinking about, again, I made a video about this like a month or two ago, like a few months ago, about this Boltzmann brain thought experiment and like criticism where, people would try to argue that, under certain, multiverse models or maybe even some cosmological models for our universe, that that there would have to be like certain instances, like very rare instances where a brain identical to a human brain spontaneously pops into existence just like from random fluctuations and then pops out of existence. And they argued that that would be statistically much more likely than for your brain to come about in the way our brain did, right? So then when it comes to certain like multiverse concepts and like the observer bias, which I've talked about on a lot of videos, how, we the observers, right, could only find ourselves somewhere that allows for observers, right? They would argue that there would be much more observers under these scenarios that just pop into existence as a Boltzmann brain, right, than come about in the way we did, right? What I wanted to talk about that, that I don't think I talked about in other videos, right? But I was just thinking about this, something that doesn't really make sense to me about the concept of a Boltzmann brain, right? Is that so for our brain to work as it does, right, relies on physics as we know it, right? Just like any machine and any part of the body, right? Our brain could not work as it does if physics were not the way that it is, right? The laws of physics are necessary for our brain to work as it is, right? As it does, right? And so, even if there could be like something that pops into existence which is structurally identical to a human brain, right? If the way physics will be working under that scenario, right, where things can just pop in and out of existence, right? The way physics will be working, wherever that would happen, right, will be so different from how physics works here, right? That even I think that even if something structurally identical to a human brain did pop into existence, right, it would not be functional in the way that ours is. It might do things, it would not function in the way ours does. It would not necessarily be conscious, right? Um, and so unless that they're arguing that there could be some alternative way that consciousness could manifest, but I don't really see how we could know that that would be the case under any of these scenarios, especially given how, like unwell defined and philosophical the term consciousness even is. It's not even really like defined in physical terms. Um, but I mean, I think that consciousness is not like an object, it's an action, right? And so, I mean, for our brain to work as it does relies on the laws of physics as they are, right? So, I mean, likewise, even if like eyes spontaneously popped into existence, wherever that could happen, physics will be so different that I don't think the eyes would actually see anything, even if something structurally identical to our eyes popped into existence, right? And likewise with the brain, right? And especially when you take it down to like the particle level, right? Because under this scenario, we're saying that every single particle in the, in a brain, right, identical to ours, just happens to exist in the right spatial locations. But okay, you got to remember, atoms do not even actually ever physically touch, right? They never physically make contact, right? They're held together, right? Um, the fact that they hold together, right, relies on physics as we know it, right? So even if particles were to spontaneously pop into existence that are spatially located in the same spots as our brain, right? I don't think that they would be having the same, I don't think that they would be like held together in the way that ours are, right? They would not be having the interconnected effect as ours does, right? And so, it seems very debatable, if if these Boltzmann brains even could come to exist under these scenarios, would they actually be conscious? I don't really see how they could be, right? Because the laws of physics, right, wherever that could happen, if it could happen anywhere in the cosmos, the laws of physics there will be so different, right? That nothing works the same, even if it's structured the same, right? So for something that like, like all the particles arranged in the same sequence spatially, but if you don't have the same laws of physics, then they wouldn't be doing the same things that the particles in our brain do, right? um so that's all for now. See you guys.